But here we are, Team Liquid qualify. What do you attribute that to the most? Is it tactical? Is it the coaching staff? Like, what is it about this team that has been such an impressive turnaround?
Like, especially talking to Broxa after they got the first seed, I think they're playing a style that definitely wins in North America. I've said this before. I think they need to be a lot tighter on that style if they're going to win with it internationally, because it basically requires, at a lot of points, losing gracefully until you can 5v5. And that's not always a great strategy if you don't know how to do that, if you give up too many advantages. Um, I think that this is a really good meta for TL actually, and the way they want to play. Mainly because there are a lot of champions in the top lane that are like really good for impact, particularly the Shen, which is kind of the one champion I'm sad LPL hasn't picked up. But I think it's a really good top lane meta for him, which gives the rest of the team a lot of opportunities. I think a lot of the bot lane picks have been really good because of how the support really dictates the pace of the lane. And Core JJ is just a phenomenal support. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that it's like, to compare this TL team to the spring TL team is a bit specious because it's a completely different team, and I think they kind of want to do different things, especially with uh tactical core JJ bot lane. But I still think that I mean, it's the current meta right now, I think, is, unless there are some drastic changes that we see, is a pretty good one for this TL team and how they want to play. I think the big thing is, you know, they go to Worlds, and I think they have to, massively tighten up this playstyle. I think this is a playstyle that wins in North America because of how many mistakes that teams make. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but it is. And I think that a lot of these faster paced Chinese teams specifically will be able to pick that apart pretty quickly, especially when they have a lot of really strong tops and mids.
Yeah.
So that is something that I'm kind of concerned about for TL, because I think they've really found their stride playing this style, and I think they like it, and I think they've had a lot of success with it. So I mean, I'm really curious to see how they do against non-NA teams. But in terms of like winning in NA, they've by far looked like the most cohesive team. They've looked like they know exactly how they want to play, which is good. Like, I'm knocking their play style, but I'm happy that they have a play style, and I'm happy that they've stuck with it and it's worked for them.
I feel a lot about this TL team like I did last TL team. I was not TL last year's when they went to Worlds. TL's team last year was a cut above a lot of the North American competition, but like I wasn't like stoked for them to go to Worlds. My expectations were not that they were going to qualify for quarterfinals. The difference is they've traded a passive jungler for an aggressive jungler and a aggressive AD carry for a more passive AD carry. And in the case of like Double Lift is a lot more aggressive than tactical, whereas I think core like dictates that playstyle of the bot lane, but like Xmithio is a lot more passive than Broxa is. And so I think that overall when you look at this team, like my expectations aren't super high for Liquid. So I don't know. Like I'm glad they're going.
Emily,
I think they'll be a good representation. But yeah, Emily, I'm happy to argue this one.
Emily, I see that look on your
No,
face, and unmute your mic.
no, I didn't want to interrupt Jacob, so I mouthed it. You don't have to be paying attention to all the faces I make. I disagree with that a bit. I think Broxa could be a lot more aggressive. Actually, I think he could be in his lanes a lot more. Especially based on how we kind of saw him play with Fnatic, which was obviously very one-sided towards one of the map. Like, he would basically pick one side or the other side, and he would like gank over and over for Bwipo, or he'd gank over and over for a Reckless. And that was actually something I was super curious about whether he would continue. And coming to North America, and it really seems like he doesn't interact with many of his lanes at all. When I was looking at this TL team, what I was really, really hoping for Jensen specifically is that he would find a jungler where he just clicks with, right? Like where it's just, man, like I've never seen Jensen have that. Like I think Jensen is actually really good. I don't think NA gives him enough credit for how good he is. But I've never ever seen him like click immediately with a jungler and have that like insane mid jungle synergy that we see out of some of these LEC teams, that we certainly see in Korea and China, with some of these mid jungle combos. Even in losses, like Peanut and Shie look like amazing together, right? Like, so I think it's really interesting that you classify Broxa as like a super aggressive jungler, because I don't think he, like, maybe he had that reputation for being in lanes a lot in Europe, but I don't think we've necessarily seen that. And again, I'm not saying it's like super good or super bad. I just don't think we've seen that out of this TL team this year.
Yeah,
Before go ahead, Tyler.
I was about to say 2018 World Championships, Gen G. That was the World Championships 2018. The group of Vitality, Cloud9, RNG, and Gen G was the day that the counter attacking, the counter punching, the traditional Korean style died. And we were there. Me and Emily were both there. We watched as Gen G fell apart over that course of a week as the world champions, the best team in the world coming in. They were favored to be one of the better teams in the tournament. Them and RNG were both favored to go deep in the tournament. They come in with the traditional South Korean counter punching style. They play around ruler, they play that late game style, and they got punched in the mouth. And since that day, we've seen a deviation from that style, and we have now, 2 years later, every team is trying to get as far away from playing that traditional old school counter attacking, playing for another team to make errors, style. It's gone away. Even Gen G themselves have tried to get away from that style, is playing a much more proactive early game with, 3 very strong lanes that can just crush and snowball. And Team Liquid is playing the Gen G style of 2018, just not as well. They don't have ruler. I love tactical. I've been on the tactical train the entire split, and I was correct that they would go to Group Stage Plaza. But alas, he's not ruler, and this team isn't Gen G. They don't have the cohesion of a Gen G. Broxa, for how much I love him, he's not as good of a farming jungler as Ambition, who could lead a team and play that style. And even that perfected style still got stomped out by a Vitality and a Cloud9. So I agree with Emily where, yes, I would love to see that aggressive Broxa. I would love to see Fnatic Broxa, who was one of the reasons why, that style of the counter punching style died in the first place, of how aggressive Fnatic was during that tournament, where Fnatic and IG, all they did was fight the entire tournament. But now he's on Team Liquid, and he's kind of accepted the fact, or it seems like he accepted the fact that he's in North America. You can play this very counter punchy style and still win trophies here, and he's not forced to play more aggressive. But when they go to the World Championship, if they try to play this 2018 Gen G traditional South Korean style, they're going to get punched in the mouth very early and very often. And I don't think it comes down to the talent, because I do think Impact, Jensen, Broxa, Core JJ, those 4 players are good enough to make a quarterfinal. And I do think Tactical has the potential to be a player that rises to the occasion, but the style they have now is not going to fly at Worlds. And as we've mentioned, they only have 1 month to fix it, and they're only going to have a few weeks to play with these Chinese, Korean, European teams in the bubble. If they can change it, if they can do the 2018 Cloud9 where they flip on the fly, where they change their style on the fly, where they see the meta, they catch on to the meta, and they can play that more aggressive style, Team Liquid could surprise a lot of people at Worlds. But do I trust them to do that? And I've trusted many North American teams in the past who adapt on the fly, and we've only seen usually Cloud9 be that team. We have a new coach in Jet. He's a very smart man. I really do like the Team Liquid infrastructure and the staff. They have the players to do it. I don't know, though, if they are going to change their entire style that they've perfected over a year. It's a lot to ask from a team.